Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 150 of Speaking from the Heart. Today we have Tammy Cohen, and Tammy has been partnering with top-tier corporate executives and entrepreneurs to develop personal and professional brands for more than 20 years. Today, she understands her role as a connector and sees opportunities for women to thrive and grow exponentially. She founded Woman Beyond the Table, which is a business network with a soul. Tammy also launched the Beyond the Table podcast, leveraging her ability to connect with audiences by sharing her guest's story and wisdom. In her consulting work, Tammy connects her clients to their mission, vision, and core value statements and utilizes her networks to develop brands. She is a frequent podcast guest and speaker on topics ranging from branding to leadership, and when she is not helping brands or women stand out, Tammy lives in Manhattan, New York with her husband and 3 sons and owns 18 restaurants on the Upper East Side. Text Messages to My Sons is Tammy's first book where she connects deeply with her family in a world of devices. And I really love this episode for so many reasons. Tammy really digs into some of the ideas of working on ourselves, how we can expand our networks as a whole, because let's face it, in this ever-changing world, we have to be able to build those relationships which really align with what I even do, and she brings some valuable insight. But she deep dives into things that really helps us to understand that even as a business owner or even in our own personal lives, being able to understand how we can connect with each other, even our own children, which we talk about in today's episode, might not be as surprising as you might think. Finding ways in which we can leave a lasting impression in the 21st century is something that even with the book that she wrote, she talks about how we can be accountable, even in a text message format, of ways in which we spread love, light, and inspiration. But hey, even if you don't take my word for it, try it out for yourself. Because once you hear Tammy's insight about what she's been through, I think you're going to have a whole different type of appreciation as to why, you can even start some of the things that she's been doing for a very long time today. But with that, let's go to the episode. All right, we're here with Tammy Cohen. Tammy, thanks for sharing your heart with us today.
Wow. I love that. I love the idea of sharing my heart. My heart is full, Josh. So excited to be here.
I love that my guests are full of a lot of great knowledge, subject areas, and even their stories. But I love the fact that you're full of just this awesomeness that you have inside of you. I'm really excited to talk to you today about some of your backstory. So, Tammy, I really want to focus a lot more in our conversation, which for my listeners might be a little bit different from some of my other styles of guests, about some of your professional accomplishments, because I think it's a really interesting story that you have as it relates to not just those things, but also the book that you have written, which I want to spend some time talking about today too. So I just want to set that up for our listeners just so that they're not thrown off. But Tammy, I already let them know a little bit about your background, but I want to talk about your business right off the bat. It's called Women Beyond the Table. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about why you got started with it, what got you involved with it. What do you actually do with your business?
Well, it's really interesting. That's a great question, Josh. Let's backtrack a little bit. One of the businesses that I have is brand messaging. I work in the gem and jewelry space as a brand messaging consultant. And when I was traveling a lot, I was very involved with work. And when the pandemic hit and there was a shutdown, I kind of realized, what am I going to do with myself? And then I realized, I have a minute to think. I'm really not that happy with myself. And I have a lot of things I need to figure out and work on because I was so busy. I didn't have time to think. But now I had a lot of time to think. This is also the time that with Women Beyond the Table came into play and so did the book. It was kind of very simultaneous. So what happened was I was thinking, I am working with one client who has all of my time. Yes, it's very exciting. Yes, they're global and I'm doing well with them. But the pandemic hit and everything stopped and so did my income. And I realized I can't have all my eggs in one basket. And I had to figure out how to navigate. And I had to figure out what am I going to do? When I started putting this all together, I was, oh, I need a business coach. I need this. I need so many things because I kind of had been out of the industry working with other people. I was always with one client. So Dash, what I did was I started getting out there and thinking about what do I need to do to expand my business and to be viable. As I was doing that, I was looking on websites. I mean, I was always a good networker. I was always a good connector. I always knew people. But sometimes there's very specific skill sets that you need when you want to expand your business, when you want to understand technology, when you don't know how to work in automation. There's a lot of these platforms out there that are amazing, but I'm of a certain age group that it just is very daunting. So I started saying, wouldn't it be nice? Because I was Googling away, I was clicking on things. And to get a download, you have to give your email. And then the minute you give your email, you get 3,000 email automations for the rest of your life, basically one every day, asking you to buy their services or bothering you with something. And you're just like, I don't care. So I said, how would it be if there was like a network of women, of people I could trust that could give me advice, that could answer questions, that could connect me to somebody who is trustworthy to provide a service, or that they have the service that could help me out to further my goals. So that's how Women Beyond the Table came about. What happened was I went to 5 colleagues and I was like, listen, I have an idea. What do you think? And they go, ooh, it's a good idea. That's a good idea. You should do that. Okay. So yes, I have an MBA. Okay. I got it in 1992. It's very traditional MBA. I had no idea. There's no course for how do you start a global business network. I said, well, I'm going to have a call. I'm going to make a call on Zoom. And would you attend? They're like, yeah, sure. Like, we're your friend. We'll attend. Okay. So that's how it started. January 2021, I made a little agenda and I sent it to 5 people. And it just kind of started taking on a life of its own. And now here we are in 2024. We're moving down the pike. We're doing things and we have a website and we have social media. We have an advisory board and we have members from all around the world. So it's really, really exciting. And that's basically where we're at right now. It's an LLC. It didn't start that way. And I didn't even think I'd get past the first year, to tell you the truth. But it took on a life of its own. And that's because the women who are attracted to this group, who are part of this group, are really kind, good-natured, smart women business owners who really just want to support and help each other. They're non-judgmental. They're non-competitive. We call ourselves a business network with a soul. And I think that's what people relate to. They relate to making friends, having connections, having people they can trust, having people that aren't judging them, a safe space. And I think that's what's kind of missing in the business realm. We're not C-suite women. We're not the whole corporate thing. We're really very much women who are achieving things and they're the one woman show or they have small businesses or they've made it to a certain point, but it's work and they're at it every day. So that's who we are.
I was going to ask you if the networks consisted of different types of people in terms of not only their personality, but if they feed into an overall mission. But you answered all of those great things because I find that I want to be attracted also to certain people as well, being a coach myself, wanting to help expand that network, being able to associate with like-minded people that are feeding into the same mission, vision, values that I even have for that matter. Was there an idea maybe that catapulted this in the first place in terms of that need? Because I know for some people, trying to find a niche as to how you can penetrate into a market or even trying to find that voice, kind of like what I have worked with a variety of different people, sometimes it means trying to figure out what is there a need or a gap. Did you have to do that kind of starting out? And if so, maybe you can walk us through at a high level. How can people find stuff like that themselves where maybe they can find a niche to help in their sort of respective area or field of their choice?
That's interesting because I always look at it from, I work in brand messaging. So I always look at it from, all right, who are you? First of all, what is your story? What's your deep dive? I have a sheet, a deep dive that I do. It's a discovery thing. And where you have to really think, like, why do I do what I do? Why am I in this business? What do I love about my business? What do I love about my process? What do I love about my customers? You go through all these different things, like why ladder almost. Like, why am I here? What is this about? What lights me up? Does this light me up? That's the first thing you have to ask yourself. And then I also take it one step further because you have a service, you have a product, So you have an audience that you want to buy those services, products. So you have to do the research. You have to figure out my ideal client. We have women in the group, actually. There's one of the women who's a marketing expert. She's amazing. And she's been teaching us about creating the ideal client persona and creating that avatar of your dream client that you want to attract, but also understanding that woman. Where are they hanging out? What are their pain points? What are their needs? What are they looking for? What would make their lives easier? What can you offer? What is the benefit you're going to provide to that ideal client that they're searching for? You have to know in your ideal client persona, you actually outline and you look at who they are, what they're about. This is the person you want to bring in, but what are their needs? And that's really what it's all about. I think in business, it's about providing value and bringing benefit and understanding what your target audience is not getting and learning what they're not getting and what their pain points are and going in there and saying, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. But you have to have some authority and you have to be able to build trust. And I'm really leery. And the first thing I always say to people is never pitch anybody, never try to sell anybody, have a conversation, because anybody you want to bring in as a client, like if you were meeting somebody for the first time at a cocktail party, you're going to be like, hi, I'm Tammy Cohen. I do this. I do that. These are my clients. I've won this award. And do you want my services? And they would look at you like, what? Like you're at a wedding. Okay. It's the same thing. Have a conversation and figure out where they're hanging out and then meet them that way and comment on their social media platforms and be engaging with them and they'll get to know you that way. It's so interesting to me because I really was never much into posting myself, but I was more into looking at the people that I admire, that I would love to work with and going onto their sites and commenting on what they're doing. And you know what? The ones who always looking at their comments and answering, and they get to know you that way. You build up a little bit of a relationship and then it's like, let's have a coffee. Oh, you're going to be at that conference. Let's meet up. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but I think it's about being transparent, being a human being, figuring out how you're going to serve, not who's going to serve you.
I love that. I was chuckling to myself as you saw as I was doing this. And I know that for my listeners, you only are hearing the audio, but I was literally chuckling because every single thing you said, I've seen other people do. They're running up, getting up to someone's face being like, there's my business, and vomiting all this information that they never even asked. They never were approached to be asked about. I mean, I tell people have an elevator speech ready, but that doesn't give you credence to go up to somebody when they didn't ask for it to just share all these things because we are not ready for that. We don't want to hear what you have to say until we get to that point. Maybe we already have somebody already doing that for us, like you said. So I find that all fascinating to me because it's just about being not just persistent, which, yeah, there's a level of what persistence, and I use air quotes on that, how much level you get into when it comes to that. But even from myself, being that I just started in the last year and a half or so, I don't want to be somebody that is like, oh, I'm an authority in all this. When I know that there's people 20, 30 years already doing this, I know where my lane is and I will build up to that. So you share some valuable points with that. So listeners, if you weren't paying attention to that, you should. Tammy was just throwing some truth bombs there.
I think what you said is really excellent, Josh, because knowing your lane is important. I'm not saying, oh, you have to stick that way and you can't deviate because you know how the road is, right?
Yeah.
Our life is a road and there's a lot of turnoffs and things that happen. But when you understand your lane, where your strengths are and what you're good at, you can dominate that lane pretty easily because you're synergistic of where you're supposed to be at today, at this time. I don't think about the future. I mean, why bother? Just do it now. Do whatever you need to do right now. That's it.
I think of it, and I've shared this with even some clients of mine too, is about scalability. So you might be at this today, and I'm like at a lower level, but I might be at a higher level down the road because of what I'm building myself up to. So being able to know when you're ready to do that, always growing, always being able to expand at that time. So that's why I resonate with it because I know my lane right now. But that lane, I'm going to take a left turn and be in the left lane at some point and even further left lanes. Yeah.
And you know what? Just because that road has some potholes and is a little bit gnarly doesn't mean you jump off of it either. That's the beauty of it, right? You're going to have challenges. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that you have to figure it out. There's a lesson that God wants you to figure out, and you have to learn it, because you'll get to the next level once you've learned that lesson. And there's a reason you have to know it.
Perfect segue into your book. I love the title of this, so I will have this in the episode notes, but I got to read this out, Tammy. So, text messages to my sons, connecting deeply in a world of devices. And when I read it, I thought, I really, 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 really hated my phone at a moment of time where I thought, I don't know why I keep this. But then I read this title of this book and I'm thinking, you know what? This device is so powerful. But I know that the title might be a lot more than what's on the surface. So you talked a little bit about that development of yourself, and that ties so well into this. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the book and why you wrote it. But what did people get out of that book if they pick it up?
Okay, so I never had any intention of writing a book. I didn't do any of these text messages to my kids, my 3 sons. I never thought about a book. What happened was during the pandemic, once again, the shutdown, and I was going through this learning phase, this personal growth development. I was in it. I was really in it. I had the coaches and the Mind Valley and Tony Robbins and Jay Shetty, and I was on Lifebook and Joe Dispenza. I just was going on and on and on because, like you said, right? There's people who've been 30 years learning and researching things and coming up with amazing ideas. You can read their books and get what took them 30 years to figure out. You can get that in a book. So I was reading, I was in quantum physics, I still am. I was all over the place. And I said, you know what? I said, I want to reach my kids where they're at, not where I'm at. Where I'm at, I like having in-person conversations, Josh. I like picking up the phone. I like having a conversation. I'm a connector like that. But that's not where a lot of people are today. They're on their devices. And you go out to dinner, you sit at a table with people and they're all looking at their phone. You go to sporting events, people look at their phones. So that's where they're at. So you have to reach them that way. And I never thought for a minute that I expected anything back from my kids. I didn't expect them to reply and say, I love you, Mom, or you're amazing. No, I just said, I want to send them this. This is my main goal. Every day, 5 days a week, not on weekends, I send them a message with love, how much I love them, how important they are, how worthy they are. I provide inspiration, something that is really inspirational, but I was sharing knowledge because I was so excited about what I was learning. I wanted to share it with them because I'm a human being and I grow and I'm learning this stuff. It's really cool. I think you should know it exists, know it's a possibility. And I was sharing quotes and I was asking them what they think and what my insight was on something, but I was also able to be accountable to them in these messages and admit how many times I was unhappy and I might have done something to them or said something to them or acted a certain way. And they, as a child, think they did something and they didn't do anything. It was just me. It was me where my head was. And they started to see me as a person. And I really was being accountable. And I was trying to explain sometimes because it haunts me, like when you're not nice to your kid or when you're screaming, when you're out of control because you are out of control. It has nothing to do with them. They're not the trigger. You're just not okay. And I went through many years of that. Listen, we all have our origin story of how we grew up and what we bring along with us and the baggage and the behaviors and things like that. So I want to be more cognizant of it. And what happened was I got into this rhythm with them and I did it every day. You know what? I just committed to doing it and I'm still doing it, even though the book came out. What happened was I was just telling colleagues and friends and people I know, like, this is what I do. This is what I'm doing. And they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. You should put that in a book. Why'd you put that in a book? And I was just like, what? Where are you put it in a book? I don't know how to write a book. Where do we write a book? So what happened was, people started saying it. And I was like, you know what? I should look into this. And that's how text messages to my sons connecting deeply in a world of devices. And what was really amazing to me is not only did my kids get involved with this process of getting this book out there, they wrote the foreword. They wrote the foreword of what it means to them to get these messages because they know they're loved. They know that regardless of what somebody gives a shit, somebody cares, somebody thinks they're all that, and that I'm sharing interesting things. Now, the book itself is written in 10 chapters: mindfulness and gratitude, discipline and determination, leadership, focus, all kinds of chapters, and the messages that apply go into those chapters. It's the first book ever written in text message format. So it's really easy to read. So people are telling me, I love this book because it's so easy to read. And they're so used to reading text. And you know what? I can jump anywhere in that book to get inspired. There's no story development. There's no character development. So you don't have to start from A and go through each page because you're going to miss a detail. So people are loving it. They tell me it's really easy. And I'm just so taken aback by it because they're like, wow, these messages are amazing and so meaningful. And I said, thank you. I just was writing what I was learning from my heart. I wasn't really thinking more than that. Now, when I actually wanted to do a book, I went to professionals and I asked them for editing because I needed editing. I didn't know how to edit properly. I didn't know how to do citations because there's a lot of quotes and you have to make sure they're attributed correctly. I didn't know how to format. And also there was a designer who we had to hire for the cover because the cover is the back cover and the front cover have to be designed. And we wanted it to be eye-catching. My kids were, like I said, they got involved with it. And I really took whatever they said to heart because I wanted their imprint on it too. And you know what? There we are. It took 8 months to publish and we're out. It's been out. I'm excited about it.
First off, my mom and you should talk because she doesn't know how to use her cell phone. And I wish that she would text me more as opposed to sending me emails or messages on Facebook. I just want a text. Give me a text, Mom. Maybe you could show her a couple things.
I would show her how to text. You know, I'm going to tell you, Josh, that I had adults who say to me, I just started texting my kids. I'm texting them. I've had adults tell me, I feel like there's less tension since I started. And some people like, well, what if they don't answer me back? I said, you know, they don't have to answer you back. It's not about them answering you back. It's about you reaching out to them. And over time, every message sinks in. And the day that you're no longer on this planet, you know what they're going to remember? You know what they're going to really miss from you? They're going to miss those messages. And you know what? They might start doing it with their loved ones. They might start spreading it out. So what we have to do is spread love, light, inspiration, real knowledge, because it's the only way to counter what's going on out there. Now, look, devices are neither good nor bad. They're technology, right?
Yeah.
What is really bad is the content. Everything is about the content that you're sending and the content that you're receiving. And in order for us to change these algorithms that are based on hate, propaganda, this is what they're churning up because this is what humans always respond to. And what our kids are seeing, we have to bring light. We have to do the opposite. We have to work really hard at this because it's a much bigger issue than just sending messages of love. Messages of love are beautiful. Love is the highest frequency. Gratitude's a high frequency. What we're getting now is low level, low frequency misinformation and things that are being said and repeated and going on. And it's just mind boggling. And I'm fearful that we are really at this place that as a culture, we're being completely rewritten and rechanged. And we don't even know it because we're so hooked into these devices that are just stealing our focus, our attention, our over-engagement, too much of this negative information. So I'm trying to find a way to inspire people to change that paradigm. That's what I'm trying to do.
That's why my comment comes from that place, because I feel that those are the remnants of being able to hold on to somebody that might not be around on this earth. I know my mom only has a finite amount of time, and that's why I kind of appreciate the book you've written, because you show an example, an actual testimony of this is what I did with my sons, and look what awesome things we were able to share and collaborate on. I actually am curious about this. This is a question that came in my mind when you were explaining it earlier. Were your sons hesitant when you started texting them all these inspirations, these quotes, these conversations? Were they a little apprehensive about doing it at first? I'm kind of curious.
You know what the funny thing was? They were like, your texts are really long. And I was like, yeah, because I'm into my thing. And they're like, they're very long, but they're well written.
Well, you know what? Hey,
it's like they got a kick out of it. Sometimes we actually discuss whatever I text. We'd have a whole thing about. And because they come over for Friday night dinner every week, we try to have Friday at least one night because two of them don't live at home. We try to get together for Friday night dinner, and then we'll discuss dang a topic. But they always got a kick out of how long-winded I can be.
Since they wrote your foreword, I guess then they were a little long-winded and probably doing that then to give you a little bit of payback. Like, I got you, Mom. Now I'm going to do this for you. And I'm going to write whatever I want.
Yeah, and you know what? They surprised me because I thought I would have to ask them like 100 times to do the forward. Or did you do it? They were like, yeah, we want to do a forward. I'm like, okay, did you do it? Did you do it? No, they actually just took it upon themselves. The three of them got together and they did it. And I was really pleased. I was really impressed. It's such a big shift because I started texting when they got their phones. Now, my kids got their phones later than the kids today because they grew up, like my oldest is 30. I'm lucky. I'm worried about little kids having phones, being perfectly honest with you. But it's out there. They have phones, they have devices. All of my texts, Josh, were like reminders, reprimands, or commands. Where are you? What do you want? You want money? You want money? What do you want? I'm busy. What do you want? What did you forget? What did you be here? I'm picking you up. There was no exchange. And they would answer me with 3-letter acronyms like they use now. All those 3-letter acronyms.
WID. That's a new one I've been learning. What are you doing?
I was like, I don't know what these mean. What do you mean? Or I'd send them a whole reprimand, like well-written reprimand, because I was upset about something. And I said, I don't want to communicate like this anymore. Not to say that we don't have texts that say like, what time are you going to be at the restaurant or where are you going to let's meet up? But I wanted to give something else besides that typical, not really warm, connecting kind of conversation, which is the typical conversation that a lot of us have with our kids on the phone, on text.
But you said something earlier that strikes me, and it's something that I didn't learn until much later. I'm 37. I admit that. I don't care if my listeners know. They know that I'm a young sap. You could be technically my mom, which I'm not going to say that
I could
want
probably
to
be technically your mom.
Yeah. You could adopt me if you want. I mean, I am going to need, no, my real mom would be mad if she found out that you did that. But
yeah, she might be offended, Josh.
She might be, but you know what? My mom loves me anyway. She will always love me, and that's what I love about moms.
We love our kids.
But you said something that's so important. Sometimes we're thinking about, this is what I got to say. This is how I'm going to say it, and this is what my role is. But you take a big step back and saying, yeah, this technology can have some big harm, but I'm using it for good. And I feel that you did that with your sons because it sounds to me that you have a much better relationship with all of them. And you have 3 sons, correct?
Yes, 3 sons.
Do you have better relationships with all 3 of them as a result of doing this?
You know what? I think they've grown to see me as a human being. And I think that's great. Listen, am I their buddy? We're not buddies. I mean, I like to think that they would see me as somebody that they could talk to. But they do come to me when they have an issue. They do still talk to me if something's going on. They want my input. They'll have something that they need to figure out and ask me my input. So that means a lot to me. That means that they care. Are we like, oh my God, love you, let's vacation and be together all the time? No, they have their space. 2 of them live downtown. I don't get downtown all the time. They try to come uptown once a week or twice a week so we can get together. But at the end of the day, I feel like they see me differently than just a parent. I remember all the times they used to tell me, you don't know what you're talking about. Relax. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're talking about. Because I would blow up or I would lose my mind. And I didn't think I was wrong most of the time. And now we don't have those conversations because I was accountable. And I think that's what changed us. And I don't sit here and make, I'm sorry, I did this, I did that. No, I just shared, but they know I'm their mother and they have to respect me at the end of the day. And respect is earned. And I respect them. You have to give respect and then they model. So if you're giving respect and you're acting a certain way and you're being accountable and you're ethical and your character's coming through, they will model that and they will feel it. And it will be more of a, I want to say transparent relationship in a way. So I think that's the difference.
I love all of this. I love our conversation today. I think that you've touched on some very valuable points that I know I have some moms that are listening to my podcast and they have sons and daughters that go from a variety of different ages that I think that you are demonstrating today how technology can be for our favor as opposed to against us. And I love that so much. And again, I appreciate you sharing all this. Tammy, I'm going to give you the last few minutes now. Maybe you want to let people know a little bit about how they can reach out to you if they're interested in working with you.
Sure.
You do a lot of different things with leadership and brand consulting, which we've talked about. Also list out how they can pick up your book. I would love for them to
Yes.
pick up your book after hearing a little bit about it today. I'm going to give you the last few minutes to do all of that.
Thank you, Josh. So my website is www.t as in Tom, C as in cat. So that's Tammy Cohen, TC, brand, BRAND, consulting.com. So everything, Woman Beyond the Table, I have a podcast called Beyond the Table, my brand messaging services, even text messages to my sons. Book is on the website and how to contact me. The book is available for sale in ebook and print, paperback on Amazon. And it's easy to find it. I use Tammy J. Cohen on my book. It's Tammy J. Cohen. Why? Because there are a lot of Tammy Cohens out there, and there happens to be Tammy Cohen authors. So I say, let me put the J in there so I could separate myself out a little bit. But yeah, text messages, my sons is available on Amazon. There's also a link, of course, directly on my website to get there. So that's probably the best way to reach me and best way to get the book.
Awesome. I'll put all that in the episode notes for any of my listeners that would like to reach out to Tammy and continue the conversation. Maybe she can help you out with all those things that she does. But I definitely recommend picking up the book. I know I'm going to. It's a very fascinating read from what I read already on the website, and I really want to pick it up. But Tammy, I just want to say, I am from a different generation, obviously. We've already kind of dispelled all of that today. But you've taught me something about not only fostering relationships with other people, about not just breathing down their necks and trying to get that quick sale, but building authentic relationships. And I think that
Connection.
Yes.
Humans need connection.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We're all the same. They're searching for it. They want it. They want that connection. And nothing's about a quick sale anymore. It's almost like it's shady.
Yeah.
They want to know you a little bit. You want to find that commonality. And you know what? Don't you find that when you find something common, when you have something in common with somebody, you just automatically feel closer to them?
Yes, you do. And I feel a little bit closer because of the connection that we've made just by talking about all these things. I feel like one of your sons. And because of that, I'm going to leave it on that. Tammy, thanks so much for being on Speaking from the Heart. I really did appreciate our conversation, and I know our listeners will get a lot out of it as well. So thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you, Josh, for having me. I appreciate it, and it was such a pleasure.
Again, I want to thank Tammy so much for her time and spending a little bit of it with me to talk about her ability to keep on moving past all the different things that have happened in her life, but yet at the same token, being able to spill into other people's lives, giving them ideas, working with all kinds of different perspectives, and allowing them to see it for themselves of what they could potentially become. But it all starts with an idea. So I have to ask you right off the bat, even after listening to this today, where are you getting some of your ideas that you're working on? Maybe it's from people that you pick up along the way. Maybe there are things that you have seen at meetings, conferences, even your significant others. Having that aha moment in which you can go into a variety of different directions can help you go where you need to go. It's just a starting point. I know of many things that even my own clients have done, mind mapping for that matter, that help you to connect one thought to another and how they relate in a significant fashion. But it's really about that expansion. Taking that idea and running with it. Oftentimes, this is where most people fall flat because they don't have the necessary relationships, the right resources for that matter, to make that happen. Whether it's financial, whether it's something with capital that you need to have, whether it's even just having a brand behind it. Having those networks that help you to answer those questions, especially in Tammy's case, really gave her that opportunity, that idea to create the table that she has created and has been so successful at. If you think about it, we have created these kind of tables in our own lives, whether those are the family tables that we grew up around with our kids, or even working with the ways in which we have done it, or even working with kids that are in the lunch table at our own school. We were able to create these relationships and dive into them because we simply knew that with sharing those kinds of ideas with them, being part of that grand adventure, that meant that we had the immediate support of some of those people. We knew that regardless of what we said, they were going to buy into it. And that's usually where it starts. It starts right from where that centerpiece is, and it allows you to expand beyond. So having those right relationships can make your role as a connector even more viable. It's helped even Tammy, for that matter, to get clients and work with them to get brands that are really well recognized. But you have to realize, having that sheet of where you're deep diving into, the research that you need to do in order to understand the industry, the requirements to enter that industry, whether it's from a legal standpoint, a financial standpoint, or other things, means that you have to understand who you're trying to achieve as your ideal client. For me, I'm still working on a variety of different angles as to what exactly is my ideal client. Originally, it started out as anybody 18 years and older that has a living, breathing pulse. Well, I realized that that might not be the best way to go about my business. That is not necessarily narrowing it down. I'm trying to reach so many types of people, while at the same time, I'm not getting any people for that matter. And that was something that I learned very hard early on in my business that I then roped back very quickly, and now feel like I'm a lot more tailored towards who I'm trying to approach. People that want to work on their public speaking, but all the things that they want to do to help themselves become better versions of themselves, and providing a list of services that surround that concept. But you have to understand that you have to bring experience. You have to also show what you are providing that other people will want to work with you on, so that you bring the goods. It's not easy sometimes to show that authority, that trust, because if you think that just simply pitching to someone is going to get you where you need to go, you got another thing coming to you, buddy. It's not just about pitching all the time. Knowing your lane and knowing how you get into that area is something that is really important. And she even talked about it with her book, which again, I'll put that in the episode notes so you can take a look at it. But connecting to people means that you have to meet them at their level. A simple question such as, is it better if I texted you, call you, or even met with you in person to discuss these things? In this ever-changing world that we live in, especially with the enhancement of technology since the post-COVID world has occurred, we have to meet people in certain dimensions at their own leisure. It means that even for business owners and for people like you and me, we have to meet them where they're at. And some people are simply not willing to adjust to it. And it isn't because they're old and they don't understand the technology. Although some people would claim that is the case, that's not always the truth. It might not even be about trying to meet people that way. It takes a significant amount of time and commitment to be able to do that, which we've already talked about in an earlier monologue episode about the importance of understanding that time. But at the same token, they have to learn new devices, new software, new tools in which they might have to navigate through this ever-traverse environment that we live in that's always constantly changing, especially as I've mentioned in even other episodes, the role of artificial intelligence. Because of all those things, that's what sometimes creates that divide. But we have to be accountable with what we share as our message. And that's really what I loved about Tammy's point of view today, especially when she talks about her book. It really shared what we need to do to grow. And by growing, whether we're leaving behind messages that makes us relatable to them and others, that's the key. We're able to understand that connection with somebody else if we're able to learn how we are able to grow and meet them halfway. And that is really the biggest part of what we always are missing when we're having this kind of conversation. Every message that we send is important. It's mind-boggling of all the things that we can do. But yet we have to spread the love, the light, and the inspiration, as Tammy even alluded to, in order to be able to do that. Do we fall flat, though? Yes. And I can't tell you how many times I've fallen flat with even closing that deal trying to get that next client, and even keeping that relationship that I know that I need to have. It's all about the experience of being human. We have to generate that connection, but at the same time, hold ourselves accountable as to when those things fail, what can we do to do better the next time that we go about it? I know that for many of us, going through this kind of relationship building, or even dealing with some of the things that we have to deal with when it comes to this enlightenment, this ability for us to gain new ideas and explore them, means that we have to be a little bit more risque. We've talked about even the challenges that we will be having in a future episode as it relates to this. But I have to say, for somebody that has worked on networking for so many years, I think Tammy's got a point. If we are really able to authentically connect with each other and build that relationship of trust, we have to start with ourselves. It means that we also have to learn that not everybody's going to be the best person that we get to work with. It doesn't matter if we're talking about this in a business context or we're talking about this in the relationships that we have with each other. We have to learn how to meet halfway. And even with the fact that we can be over the phone or texting to make those points, just know that every message is important and that every time that you send a message that is heartfelt, even if you never get a reply, except if it's never received, which that sometimes can happen, especially if you send that snail mail from the United States Postal Service here in the United States, I will tell you, they will feel a sense of change and the warm and fuzziness knowing that they were being thought about. And that is the love language that we always want to have by the end of the day, to feel like we're being heard. Tammy's not too far off from the advice that I've been given even growing up. Even if other people don't have anything nice to say or they don't have anything they want to give you, always treat them with kindness and respect. Even if you think that you've been done wrong, and even if you have pointed it out and they never corrected it, it's always about the things that you do that are being witnessed and also not witnessed. Because every time that you do it, somebody is always looking out. I love the relationships that Tammy is forming, and it just shows an example that all of us can do better. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have it in a perfect context, but the main purpose of even doing this podcast, Speaking from the Heart, is to authentically shine a light on the things that sometimes we're uncomfortable talking about, but doing it in a most productive, constructive way to give everybody a chance. Because we all deserve that chance. We all deserve that ability to be accountable with what is being shared. We all have that willingness to learn and grow. But it's also the way in which we approach it. You don't have to write a book to figure it out. Tammy did it, though, because I think that not only does she want to spread her message across the world, which any great author would want to do, but I think she wanted to write a letter to all the people, even her family members for that matter, of why it's so important to have that genuine connection. We all can do this in one way or another. Even if we decide that tomorrow we will pick up the phone after listening to today's episode and call that person that we haven't talked to in so many years. Even if that person is no longer here, throw up a prayer. Think of them in your thoughts, especially as you go about your day. Reminisce on all the good times that have been there, and trust me on this. You're going to start shifting even your own mindset, even without having that kind of conversation. Because those are the things that you can just pick up and keep moving ahead, knowing that you left a marker for somebody to follow. Just like that path that we've always been talking about on this show, you can do a deep dive and learn about the ways in which you and your ideal client or even your ideal relationship can happen for so many others. Your example can be the example of somebody else. And hey, maybe I'll get to read about you one day when I'm a little bit older, because you took the advice of our guest today and wrote your own book to leave your own letter of what is yet to come and what you want to see from the best version of everybody else. Thanks for listening to episode number 150 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.